So very clearly, someone from the U.S. Navy is watching the channel. What you're looking at here is a picture from the report released on USNI. It's a joint report that dealt with the issue with the Fitzgerald and the McCain. This is the first part. Now, don't think that I'm forgetting the issue with the McCain. I just need to keep all this stuff straight. We're going to be getting to the McCain, but for this video we're going to be dealing with the issue with the Fitzgerald. But right away we can see that they have now gone back and edited the report, because this shows in this line the Crystal still doing this ridiculous turn here, and they have updated the times. Okay, they're still wrong. The turn didn't happen at 1:15, it happened at 1:20. But they've changed this to say 1:29 and this to say 1:29. Now here is a screenshot from my video yesterday. And this is what they had on the report. So clearly, someone brought it to their attention that before releasing the report, they clearly didn't even look at it, because the times put on here were incorrect. And I didn't see anyone else covering this yesterday other than myself. So anyway, welcome to the channel, U.S. Navy. We hope that maybe you can learn something about being honest and decent and forthright from being here, and we will give you every opportunity to do so. Now, what I have done, this is the video that we have seen ad nauseum that tracks the ACX Crystal. I have forwarded it to the, what would be the 1:09 a.m. local time. That's GMT listed there. But everyone knows that that's what we're dealing with, is the difference between GMT and local time here in Japan. A little bit clearer, different browser, so it does show the course of the ACX Crystal clearly. 87 degrees at 18.2 knots. Now, what I've also done is I brought up this little list of events from the report, and what we're going to focus on is this 1:10 to 1:30 time, and some very interesting events happened. Also, we're going to cover real quick, we're going to go back. This covers everything that happened that morning, but there were some things that happened the day before that kind of make me believe that there might actually have been a helicopter on board, meaning that they would have had access to a radio that would have not been damaged in the collision, that they could have called on, because it says here that they were doing training, flight training, and I want to find it here. Okay, so here's where they begin, and it says all the different things they do to get underway. Station modified navigation detail due to proximity of shoal water while transition to Sagami-wan. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, they secured flight operations, but here it is. 1736 hours the evening before, conducted helicopter deck landing qualifications and aviation certifications. So, you know, I guess it doesn't prove that one was on at the time, but it says here that at 2111 hours, the flight operations were secured. There very well could have been a helicopter on board, because they were doing flight operations. So anyway, just wanted to cover that real quick. It shows here that they were transiting at night, and they were down at 16 knots due to high traffic density from where they were transiting out of Sagami-wan, but they increased to 20 knots. But we saw the picture of what was going on from this video over here, when it was zoomed out, there was a ton of traffic they were heading into. Why they would have increased speed is a little quizzical, because they were heading into a lot of traffic. Just here in this little zoom shot, we can see 6 or 7. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get down to the meat of this. It shows they were altering course during this time. They were going from more of a southwesterly to almost a directly south course. 220 to 215, down to 190, all staying at 20 knots. It shows all of the different vessels, a vicinity of 5 vessels. It shows that they knew where they were and didn't see any of them as a threat because of no report being made to the commanding officer. Still maintaining their course, and it shows here that they actually violated their own procedures, crossed the bow of a ship 650 yards, which out at sea is apparently pretty close. It's a third of a mile, roughly, maybe a little more. And third vessel, 2.5 miles. No reports were made. Okay, and here's the first, this is why we're using the 110 mark. Here's where they actually give us a reference. Fitzgerald continued on a course 190 degrees, speed 20 knots. Crystal was ahead on Fitzgerald's starboard side at a distance of 11 nautical miles. Now, we're going to just reduce this real quick and go back here to the map. Now, one great thing that we had with this particular track is this appearance of this little tiny spit of an island. And I've gone to Google Maps and measured, it's a 1/4 mile island. So what this shows here is that we have about 4 miles between the ACX Crystal, and that gives us a reference so that we can build other maps. And I have attempted to do so with, stay with me here, here we go. All right, so here's the island, okay, and here's the approximate location at the 110 mark. Now, the accident occurred, you have to follow me here. The accident occurred roughly about 20 minutes in the future from this point where they're saying this ship, the Fitzgerald, was 11 nautical miles away. So you have to do a little bit of math and a little bit of logic to maintain where this would be at that time, using the distances. So she traveled 20 minutes at 18 knots. That would be about 5 miles. And the distance here and here needs to be about 11 miles. So here's roughly the track they took. Now here's the most important thing, and we're going to go back to that list of, and I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but this is important to show how clearly the idea here is that the Crystal was trying to hit the Fitzgerald. It was aiming for it. That led to the confusion. This wasn't a ship that was just trying to maintain its course and avoid a collision. It was trying to hit the Fitz. Now remember, during this time, the statement from Captain Advinculus said that at this time, 20 minutes prior, he had visual confirmation of the Fitzgerald. He had tried to contact it by radio and had flashed its lights and blew his horn, even at this distance, which is ridiculous. Because he said that from the time that he tried to avoid the collision to the time of the collision was 10 minutes. And we covered that in another video. So here we are, 110. Fitzgerald continued on a course 190, distance of 11 nautical miles. At the same time, watchstanders unsuccessfully attempted to initiate a radar track on the Crystal, which is weird. As we roll down here, we see 1:15. Crystal was closing Fitzgerald's intended track at a high rate of speed. Yes, that's true. That's absolutely true. But remember, yes, at a course of 87 degrees. So still running almost due east. Now, we're going to go down here real quick, and we're going to play this forward to the turn point, which is 120. And here it is, coming up. Okay, there's our turn right there. And just to show you, there it is, 120. That's when the turn took place. And she goes from almost due east, 20 degrees north, toward, and that's where, and now they're saying, remember, we had initially thought, based on the report, because the captain also said that he was running in the same direction as the Fitzgerald when he hit him. So we had made the assumption that the captain wasn't lying, and that we had the Fitz running here. Well, now we have the Fitz almost nose to nose coming down this way in a crossing situation with all of these ships off to her starboard, and apparently nothing but lookouts on the port side, which is beyond unbelievable. But once again, let's go to the list. Let's go to what the Navy has said happened. Okay, we're not going to make assumptions. This is from their report. This is what they are saying has happened. Okay, now 1:17, 7 minutes later, the Fitzgerald's officer of the deck plotted a radar track on a vessel thought to be the Crystal and calculated that the Crystal would pass 1,500 yards from Fitzgerald on the right starboard side. That really makes no sense. If it's passing 15, if the thing is crossing you and crossing your path, how would it be 1,500 yards running parallel? It's very vague how this is described. 1,500 yards from Fitzgerald on the starboard side. It is unknown if the officer of the deck was tracking the Crystal or another commercial vessel. I'm not sure who the heck else they could have been tracking. We had the Crystal, we had the Wanhai. Down here, not pictured below, is the Merskivora, but that's not even close at this point, because you got to remember the Fitz has to be about right here now. And there's no mention made of this Wanhai. You know, at least not specifically. Okay, so 1:20, the watchstander responsible for immediate support of the officer of the deck, the junior officer of the deck, reported sighting Crystal visually and noted the Crystal's course would cross Fitzgerald's track. Now remember, 1:20, that's the time the Crystal turned. Okay, did this 1:20 event, did they notice that the Crystal had gone from a 90-degree track to a 70-degree track? Which radar tracks don't lie. That's what's going on here. Okay, so that's 1:22. The junior officer of the deck sighted Crystal again and made the recommendation to slow. The officer of the deck responded that slowing would complicate the contact picture. Now, you would think, okay, well, should have done that. But here's the problem with this. I made this allegation that, and I got in trouble with a lot of Navy guys for it, and it looks like this is exactly what has happened. If you're in a highway and you're in a car, and you're coming to an intersection, do this in your mind's eye. You're coming to an intersection and you see a car coming off from your right to left in front of you, and he's off to your right, and you think you're going to hit the intersection at the same time as him. Do you make the choice to steer left and gun it and try to beat him across the intersection, or do you slow your vehicle and steer to the right and try to go behind him? 99% of intelligent folks would do the second, would do the latter. They would steer to the right and slow. Okay? And that's what is going to have been revealed to have happened here. But the problem is the Crystal turned back to the right. Turned back toward her starboard. Meaning that she made a left and then she made a right. Instead of maintaining her track. And we'll see that down here. Okay, 0125. The officer of the deck noticed Crystal rapidly getting closer and considered a turn to 240T. That's the intelligent turn there. Because remember, they're at 190. They're heading south-ish. He wants to go back to his right. Because this thing's coming left to right in front of him. And go behind the Crystal. Now here's where things just get strange. The officer of the deck ordered course to the right, course 240T, but rescinded the order within a minute, with no explanation here. Instead, the officer of the deck ordered an increase to full speed and a rapid turn to port. These orders were not carried out. And I can maybe understand why he wouldn't do that, because it would be insane to try at that distance now, because remember, we're talking 127, and I'll go ahead and play this forward to 127. And this is where you see the Crystal make the attempt. Let's see if I got this right here. 125. Okay, here's 127. Okay, she still hasn't made that turn yet. Okay, there it is. There's the turn back to 88 degrees. Happens at 1:30. Now let's bring that list back up. Okay, here we are. Okay, 1:29. 2 minutes prior to that, the boatswain of the watch, a more senior supervisor of the bridge, took over the helm and executed the order. So the ship, the ACX Crystal, down here, 131, turned back to 90 degrees when he saw the Fitzgerald make this hard turn to the left. He turned to the right to continue the collision course. He has this ship coming across in front of him, and it makes a hard left-hand turn to avoid, and he turns right. So clearly, both occasions here, we see very clearly the ACX Crystal was gunning for this ship. There's no other explanation. She had two opportunities to avoid this collision. One, maintain the course down here. Number two, maintain the course this way or go back to her port, because this thing was going to its. So, and here's where it describes where it hit it, and also says, neither Fitzgerald nor Crystal made an attempt to establish radio communications or sound the danger signal. How they know that about the Crystal, I don't know, because it was reported that the Crystal was flashing her lights and sounding her horn from the captain himself and attempting to make radio communication. So if the captain of the Crystal is lying, that's more damning than anything else, because the Navy themselves are taking the blame for this. And in this particular crossing situation, according to naval rules of the road, the ACX Crystal would have had right-of-way, so would have the Wan Hai. So that the Crystal captain would have felt the need to lie seems very strange. He could have told the truth exactly as it stood, according to the Navy story, and been completely exonerated. So either the Navy is lying, which we can show now very clearly that they have lied and they have misled and they have reported false information, or this guy's lying and he has no reason to. So even in their own report, they can't even keep their lies straight. You know, and here's the Baichi Bridge over here. We have a lot more to cover. This was just one small part of this report that has all sorts of problems with it. So sorry this video went a little longer than normal. But any questions, please feel free. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.